I'm currently standing in number 9 Porthmeor Studios, which are a historic set of studios on the beach in St Ives. And it's a very sunny day outside at the moment, so you might be able to hear what's going on a bit. I think a clue to getting to know the work is that I didn't have any formal painting training. I trained as a sculptor. So I think that gives you a clue to the texture and the tones in the work. I came down here, rented a small house and didn't have the room to make sculpture. So I started working two-dimensionally. And I've never stopped since, really. What tends to happen is I build up a lot of surface on a painting, and I spend a lot of time just sort of slogging away, layer after layer after layer of paint, almost not considering it as a piece of work then. It's just like something to build up, really. And then things start slowly happening, and I can cut into the work, I can chisel into the work, sand it back. Lots of bitumen goes on, lots of burning goes on, trying to pit the surface and sort of transform it into something else, if you like. So it gives references to things I see outside. So it could be rock faces, it could be old doorways, it could be old ancient walls. I do like a history in my work. And I do cut into my work an awful lot, lots of lines, lots of channeling. Again, it's the way of getting involved in the piece and attacking it and trying to make those mistakes where I get interested. And I think I notice, you're kind of always on the lookout for the next move or where it's going to go. And you're always looking for that. Sometimes they just die and die and die and nothing happens for a long time. And eventually, you hope, something interesting starts to happen. Yeah, it's kind of an organic process, if you like. You know, although I'm doing it, the reactions that are going on the surface, I'm always looking for something that I just hone in on, and then I'll sort of jump on top of it, you like. And another thing to say is I always work on a lot of pieces at once, so I'm always trying to shift one idea to the other. So when something happens on one painting, I'll try and move it onto the next one. Lots of channeling, lots of cutting. I'm just interested in that. I guess it's a sculptural thing where there's no sort of jaunty angles going on. It's all horizontal and vertical. You know, they've got to stand up as an object. And I'm not one who applies paints to part of the surface ever. It's always across the whole surface. Again, it's like a sculpture where you've got to tackle the whole thing. You're not applying paint at all. It's all done with sponges and dragging paint, flooding them with bitumen, hoping for the bitumen to come through the surface. So it's a complete sort of attack all the time. You develop techniques as an artist where what might be an average painting can be salvaged by an artist carries in his back pocket, in a way, in terms of his head, that you know, you put a couple of white lines down, you do something white, and it sort of transforms. It's kind of false. And I'm trying not to do that so much now. So I'm kind of leaving them more exposed, if you like. So some of the bigger ones, which I haven't got out, but some of the bigger ones are slightly more chaotic. So I've not cut into them, and I've not put my white lines on, and not tried to order them too much. See where they go. I'm still sort of looking at this piece. It came around in a kind of second-hand way, because this is one of my working surfaces, where I use it as a table, and I work on the paintings, and this is the sort of residue of the other paintings, and then it's stained, and it kind of worked because I kept all the paintings horizontally while I was working on them. So all the dribbles kind of work in a way. So I'm still sort of looking at this piece. I think I like it because it's quite fresh. You know, some of the others are sort of done to death in a way sometimes. And I have to keep trying to freshen them up again. Because I'll work and work and work. And I probably do kill some paintings occasionally. And then I need to freshen them up again. But this one's very direct, and I think it's why I've got quite attached to it. And maybe it's a way of sort of moving forward. No matter what scale I'm working on, in a way, sometimes the smaller pieces take as long, if not longer, than the bigger pieces. And I'm interested in that, where the smaller something is, the more detailed and intrinsic it becomes. It becomes tight and lots of detail in it, and the bigger pieces become more expansive and there's less going on in a way. And it's about mark making, so they'll be quite busy, the smaller ones, and the bigger ones might become simpler. Almost like drawings for a building, a bit of architecture or something, where the drawings are very detailed and the building can be very minimal. That sort of ideas I've got in my head. I had difficulty with these. I always work in a series, so I'll make 10, 12 panels. I always lose a couple, but I try and keep them together as a unit. And these they were very, very heavy, lots of emotion on top, and they just weren't working. So I started really burning them quite heavily and cutting into the surface. So I was bringing the old layers to the front. So you get ridges and things and a bit of history. Then they started working, I think. Sometimes if they get too flat but heavy, they won't let me in, if you know what I mean. I need to find edges and faults. I have to find faults in the work and then exploit them. When I work in a certain way and things happen and I know they're going to happen, it just gets a bit boring. So you're always looking for that change. Slight differences. There's a couple on the desk being done now, which, again, they've got the layers, they've got the history, and then I make slight, basically it's I lay motion over, drag white spirit across, and the underneath surfaces, the bitumen or the resins, pop through the surface, and it's a matter of making those judgments in a way. How much do you want it to come through? And I just spend hours doing that. It can be quite distressing at times. I don't want to tie them down too much, so I talk physically about them. I talk about how they're made. I talk about what I do. When I get a bit arty about them and I start using my head too much, I get just terribly confused, and I sit off them and just think, it makes me ineffectual, really. So in a way, I don't want to know. I want to keep it a mystery for myself, I think, And it kind of works. So I'm either doing something very right or something very wrong. I haven't quite decided yet. I guess when I was 20 years old and I was training, I thought you'd get to an age, about now, where you'd hope you kind of knew what you were doing and hoped you're in control and that things happened a bit easier. But if anything, it's getting harder, Maybe because your expectations are higher, which is obviously very good. Just still work in that sort of confusion. A lot of the time it's just confusion and complete despair why nothing's working for months on end. But I think if you can still do that every day while you're going through that, that's where the success is, I think, when they actually start working. You just want to make better work all the time, in more important work all the time, for no particular reason than other making more important work for yourself. It's a completely self-obsessed thing. It's not for anybody else, is it, in terms of what I make? It's just about pleasure, in the end. You get the same people come down every year and sit in exactly the same place. I've watched their kids grow up over the last 5 years. It's really weird. We've got nicknames for them.